Sugar is a vital nutrient for health. Now, sugar and carbohydrate are one and the same. So in other words, sugar is carbohydrate, carbohydrate is sugar. Many people are confused about this. The primary source of carbohydrates in our diet is fruits, vegetables, and starches. Now, people often say to me, Jeff, I don't eat any carbs. Now, what they mean is they're working on getting rid of processed carbohydrates. I tell them carbohydrates are essential for health. Our body uses carbohydrate, or sugar, as our primary energy source for our brain, our muscles, our organs, every cell in the body. So carbohydrate is essential to healthful bodily function. As I just stated, carbohydrate is crucial for health. Now, when sugar comes into the body, it should be blended with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytonutrients, and wrapped in a fiber package. Now, for example, an apple has all of those elements. So do bananas, and as well as kidney beans. Now, these are examples of unprocessed foods that are a healthful source of carbohydrates because all of the supportive elements are there. Now, this, on the other hand, is processed sugar. Now, what's missing from this is vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, antioxidants, wrapped in a fiber wrapper. So the problem is that this carbohydrate has been stripped of these other elements that allow it to be a healthful nutrient source to the body. So you want to stick with the less processed or unprocessed carbohydrates and minimize the processed carbohydrates. Now, I was in the grocery store the other day and I found the sugar cane. Now, many people have never seen this. This is actually where this sugar comes from. And I love this prop because I use it all the time with my clients. I'll say, hey, I found a form of sugar that's totally healthy. And then I bring this out and I say, now, this, which is very fibrous and very hard, I say, you can gnaw on this. And as much sugar as you can eat in a day, totally healthy for you. And of course, they're disappointed to find out that it's sugar cane. But you could see that in a natural setting, you would not be getting a lot of sugar from sugar cane as opposed to when it's refined. So anyway, just a little humor there, but have a good time with this with my clients. How fast sugar is absorbed into the bloodstream has a bearing on our weight and our health. Now, there's two basic types of carbohydrates. There's simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Now, a simple carbohydrate is really just a sugar molecule by itself and or maybe one or two strung together. Now, fruit is an example of a food that has simple carbohydrates. A complex carbohydrate is a chain of sugars, much longer, and that is your starchier foods. Now, the simple carbohydrates tend to raise the blood sugar quickly and then have a quicker drop-off. The complex carbohydrates tend to sustain the blood sugar longer over a period of time. Now, throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, I was doing a number of competitive bodybuilding contests. I was manipulating my carbohydrates in order to lose body fat. Now, I noticed that I didn't lose body fat as easily on bananas as I did on apples. And I noticed that with different carbohydrate foods. Now, in the early 1980s, a team of scientists developed what's called the glycemic index. And basically what they did was they rated foods to see what rate of release or how quickly the blood sugar would raise in response to eating those foods. And they made a chart that listed the different numbers and compared them. Now, what was interesting is that bananas have a higher glycemic number than apples, so that was some support of my initial observations. Kidney beans have even a lower rating than the apples. So, glycemic index can be a valuable tool if you're trying to work on fat loss or maybe if you have type 2 diabetes. If your metabolism is basically normal, then I call this a minor factor, with no disrespect to the scientists who did all of the work to categorize this. But basically I find if your metabolism is functioning normally, whether you eat bananas, whether you eat apples, that doesn't make a whole lot of difference. There's some difference, but it's not major. However, if you're insulin resistant and you're having a lot of trouble with fat loss or having trouble managing your blood sugar, then I think that the glycemic index could be a valuable tool to help with those conditions. One caveat to the glycemic index is that I like to apply it to unprocessed food. Just because you can find a processed food with a lower glycemic index number does not necessarily mean that it's more healthful than an unprocessed food with a slightly higher glycemic index number. Glycemic index is a factor in making food choices, but it's not the only factor. So it's a useful tool in your decision-making process, but again, it should not be the only factor. As I stated earlier, sugar is a vital nutrient for health. I hope this video provides a clearer understanding of why that is. I'm Jeff Riley for Fitness Innovations.